I'm Rob, and I just kind of wanted to share what God did through me and what I saw in Africa. Really, going into the trip, I knew we were going to do a bunch of evangelism and stuff, but I kind of told myself that we weren't because it intimidated me and scared me to death, really. But going in, the Lord really gave me a sense of peace and strength and boldness. And I was able to do it fine when I was there, but I just kind of wanted to share a couple stories, incidents. So one night I was speaking in front of like 800 kids. I had to introduce a group of like me and like 3 other people. We had to put on a sermon for a senior high school. And I got up there, and I felt good about myself. I thought I was doing fine. And it's actually funny. The pounding feedback you can get on a mic sometimes? It happened like for the whole 10 minutes I was talking. And I didn't have a translator, and I spoke way too fast. So nobody could understand what a word I was saying, and felt dumb. But I went back to my seat, and I asked Ian if anybody could hear me. And Ian was like, "No, dude, you talked way too fast," which was good because I needed to know it for the next time I talked. But I laughed it off. It was really a confidence killer, though, and I felt kind of dumb. Is the best word I can think of. And I really felt like I wasn't connecting with anybody until about 3 days later. Me, Mel, and Mackie went to put on a service for about 20-25 people, which was actually a lot more intimidating because they're all looking at you, and I don't know why, but it's more intimidating. And once again, I felt good about myself. And when I got done, I thought I did fine. And we finished with the whole sermon. And after the sermons, there's about 30 minutes where everybody wants to come greet you and talk to you and take pictures and whatnot. And that was fun, interesting. But a guy named Joshua came up to me, and he said, your testimony really spoke to me. Can we go talk somewhere? So we kind of prayed and talked, and he cried a little bit, and I kind of teared up a little bit too. But I really felt like I connected with somebody for the first time in my 17 years of living, and I really felt like I fulfilled my duty as being a Christian, and it was the most incredible thing ever. And I have a verse. It says, it's in Hebrews, it says, "By faith Abraham, when he was called, obeyed by going out to a place which he was to receive for an inheritance. And he went out, not knowing where he was going." And I challenge you really to just kind of step out in your schools and sports teams, whatever you do, even if you don't know where you're going, even if it's awkward and terrifying, because it can be scary a lot of times. I just challenge everybody to kind of step out in their faith. In Revelations, it says, "They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony." And I really felt like I wasn't reaching out to anybody the whole trip until that one night. And because I didn't really feel like my testimony was very powerful. But we all have testimonies, and I just wanted to tell all of you that your testimony is powerful and that you can speak to people, because I didn't think I could, and I did. And if I was supposed to go out to Africa to reach that one single person, I felt like I fulfilled my duty as being a Christian. So, that's all. Oh yeah, here's my friend Mel.
Hey, my name is Mel Wilcox, and I just graduated from Mount Brook High School. Mount Brook. Obviously, I went to Ghana with all the guys over there, and we just had an amazing time. The Lord really just did a lot through us, and we learned so much. Personally, I learned how to eat things I hated. There's every night for 10 days straight. Grace, she's the sweetest lady. She would just make these meals. They were just a little sketchy. And one night, every night for 10 days straight, we would have these huge bowls of salad, and they didn't have any, no ranch or anything. All it was doused in mayonnaise. That was it. Every night, and you could not eat it because we wanted her to think we liked it. And we loved it. It was good. But yeah, so I learned how to eat things. Just whatever they put in front of you, I would eat it. I learned African songs. I learned how to dance. They dance really weird. I'm not going to do it. You can look it up on YouTube or something. I'm not doing it. Moving on. But God really taught me a lot, and I think the biggest thing He taught me was just how to be like an evangelist. And before I went to Ghana, I've never done anything. Like I could probably count on one hand how many times I've shared my testimony or prayed salvation prayers. I mean, I've never done that before. It was so new to me. And going into the trip, I didn't think we were going to be doing anything like that. And so when Ian and Heidi told us what we were going to be doing, I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I freaked out. Because I'm not used to doing things like that. And so I remember the first night we got there, and Heidi and Ian, they were telling us about the schools we were going to be going to, and like she said, every morning we would go to high schools, and junior highs, and elementary schools, and there was only 14 of us, or 12 of us, however many there was. And so we'd go to like 5 schools in the morning, and that means there'd be like groups of 2 or 3, and that's it. And so she told us that the next morning we're going to be going to 5 schools, and she was like, we need 5 people to tell a testimony, we need 5 people to give sermons, we need 5 people to lead like worship, we need all these people to do that. There's not that many of us, so we all had to do everything. And I volunteered to do a testimony pretty much just so I wouldn't have to do a sermon or a salvation prayer, because I thought maybe I could do a testimony. It doesn't sound too bad. But as I was sleeping that night, I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. You know, I'm not a speaker. I don't speak in front of people. Like, what am I doing here? I should have come to Ghana. This is so like, so out of my comfort zone. And so the whole night, I barely slept. And the next morning, we were on the way to the school. I think it was me and 2 other people. And when we got there, they let us in this huge room. And there was like 300 of these African kids, like beating on desks and like yelling and screaming. And it honestly looked like something out of a movie. I was just like, this is not real life. What am I doing here? And I prayed, and I was just like, God, just let me be bold, give me strength, give me courage. And as soon as I got there, they were like, no, like, we don't need testimonies, we need like salvation message. And I was a testimony guy, so scrap that. I had to do a salvation message. And I was just like, oh my, like right there on the spot, I was like, what the heck, I can't do this. But I trusted God, and I went through with it. And I think I did an all right job. I got to pray over them, asked them to raise their hands, and tons of people raised their hands, and I got to lead them in salvation messages. Yeah, it was awesome. And it was really just, it was like the first time in my life I felt this sort of fulfillment that I never felt before. And 2 weeks later, when the trip was over, we were kind of talking about everything and what God had showed us. And just with the evangelism, like it was something I'd never done before. And just leading people to Christ and just sharing what He's done for us. I feel like that's something God has called each and every one of us to do. When we're saved as Christians, He doesn't want us to hold it inside. He doesn't call us to be quiet and meek Christians who just, get saved and keep it for ourselves and live our life without, sharing it with anybody. And so going through this experience where every night and every morning just sharing and leading people to the Lord and just sharing my testimony, I felt fulfilled and like I'd finally done my job, like a full Christian, like, what God has called me to do in Matthew. Jesus says, go make disciples of all nations. And it was the first time I really felt like I was actually doing that. And I just want to encourage you that, although we went to Ghana, you don't have to go to Ghana to be an evangelist. You don't have to be Pastor Chris to lead people to Christ. Maybe you know a friend who, is struggling or doesn't know the Lord. All it takes is just sharing what God's done in your life, or saying a little something about how you've been saved. Maybe just one person, or sharing in maybe a Bible study, or a youth group, or whatever. You don't have to save 1,000 people. Like Rob said, he went to Ghana, and he touched one person, and that made the whole trip worth it. And that's how it should be for us here. Just to look for every opportunity we have, because like Gina said, they're all around us. I'm sure y'all have friends that are struggling. And, God's equipped us all. Y'all go in my opinion, it's like the best church in the city, but, whatever. God's equipping us. Y'all can sit here and listen to sermons. Y'all know how it's done. And for me, I didn't think I had what it takes to be an evangelist or to lead people to Christ. But just as I was sitting there praying those prayers, just things started coming up from nowhere. And y'all all have what it takes to lead people to Christ and to be a vessel for the Lord. So I just want to encourage you that, it's terrifying. To get up and just even talk to like one person. It's scary to talk about your faith, even with your best friend. I've been there before. It's still scary to me. But God will give you strength. All He's requiring of you is just to step out there and to make yourself vulnerable, and He'll meet you right there. And He's got all the tools. He'll give you everything you need. He just wants you to be willing. So right now, I just want to pray a prayer of encouragement over you all. So everybody just bow their heads. Dear God, I just thank you for this opportunity that we had just to go make a difference in the world, Father. Just to preach your name, Father, to people who haven't heard before, God. But I also want to pray, Father, that as we come back to America, God, that we know that you're not limited to one place, Father, but we can make a difference for you everywhere. Father, I want to pray for these students, God, that you give them boldness and strength and courage to make a difference, God. Just even if it's to their friends or to their youth group, God, give them the boldness and the courage to stand up for what they believe in and to be an evangelist, God, to do the things you've called them to do. God, just in this time, during the summer of just growth, Father, I pray that you prepare them for the years next year, for school, God, that you would just give them the strength, Father, to go out into the schools and to reach people, Father, and to speak to those who haven't heard you or ever seen you, Father, to invite people to church, to pray for people, God, and just to share what you've done in their lives, Father. Lord, we love you so much, God, and we thank you for everything you've done for us.
Amen. Y'all give them a hand for sharing. Awesome stories, man. I'll tell you one thing. One thing I called about that, I did not want to eat a mayonnaise sandwich. When they said about mayonnaise, that killed me right there. Y'all hate mayonnaise? Gosh, I hate mayonnaise, man. Stuff is rough.